Family, welcome back to this week's episode of The Gold Corner. The Gold Corner is a broken family. I tell people we're broken family, but we're broken together. This is a channel that I created in memory of my 2-year-old daughter who passed away from neuroblastoma in 2018. And just God put it in my heart to create this platform where we can speak about these warriors that have fought childhood cancer, the ones currently fighting, and the ones that have beat it. This is who we are. We are The Gold Corner. Let's do this.
And now it's time for the main event. This is the moment you have all been waiting for. In memory of Mia Ojeda. Dedicated to all the brave little warriors that have fought and the ones that are currently fighting childhood cancer. For the thousands watching around the world, fighting out of the gold corner, it's time!
This week is a very special week, like they all are. First of all, I just want to apologize that we did not have an episode last week. I tend to take some time off as well to kind of recover and recharge my battery. So I apologize from the bottom of my heart. But this week, we're back with another amazing story, and amazing in a lot of ways. This is a family that I personally know, and we have the honor and pleasure of having with us today Sam and Kori, and they're going to go into the story a little bit more in depth. But this is a family that actually reached out to me. They are from my hometown of El Paso, Texas. Little Benny diagnosed with the same cancer that my daughter Mia had, but luckily we were able to get them to where they are right now. So I'm not going to speak more about the story. That way they can go ahead and share their story with us. But Sam and Cody, I just wanted to welcome you to the Gold Corner. We've spoken on so many occasions. Sam, you and I have had a chance to hang out. And also, family, I want to say that Sam is actually the executive director of the nonprofit organization, the Gold Corner. So I went ahead and I reached out to him and I made that invitation and he accepted. And we have this passion for helping children. So, Sam, again, like I said, Sam and Cody, thank you so much for joining us. We can't wait to hear the story of Warrior Benny. And guys, I introduce you my executive director and his beautiful wife. Guys, welcome to the Gold Corner. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you for having us. It is a pleasure. And first of all, if it wasn't for you, Benny wouldn't be where he is right now. So I'll let Kori start off with a little bit of Benny, of him growing up.
Yeah. So Benny was not an expected child. He was a big surprise for us. It was planned by God, not by us. So him and my oldest daughter, my 4-year-old daughter, they are only 15 months apart. So they're Irish twins, is what they're considered. So they don't know life without each other at all. For the most part, all of our kids have been healthy, never any big issues. Benny's the only one that's been hospitalized prior to his diagnosis, and it was because at 3 months, we were visiting family out in El Paso, and he got RSV, which is like a viral bronchitis, from my understanding, or it starts as bronchitis and it gets just really bad to where their respiratory system isn't functioning correctly and they need assistance. So that was a big scare for us. He was hospitalized for 5 days as a 3-month baby. And they pretty much just told us when we walked in. This was at the El Paso Children's Hospital back in 2018. I remember going in the middle of the night and he just looked different. He was breathing really hard, like his like chest kept caving in and his head was popping. And when we showed up, it was like a movie. Like they just plugged him in, they put oxygen on him, they like scooted me out of the room, It was just really scary. So we managed to get through those 5 days. And I remember praying to God, like, if this is what it's going to be, please let it be okay in my soul. Let me accept the fact that you lent him to me for 3 months and now he's yours. But do not let me get better in my heart, because that was my biggest fear, is losing my son at 3 months. We surpassed that. And I honestly thought that that was going to be the worst thing that we had to ever deal with. And then from like there on, I always had like respiratory trauma. Like I always felt like whenever he had too much boogers or congestion or anything like that, we automatically took him to the doctor. He'd be on nebulizers for about a month and then he'd be fine. So our biggest thing was always his respiratory concerns. We never anticipated, other than that one time, Benny has never been sick. He's never shown pain. He's never shown weakness. He's always the wild child. If anything, we thought we would be hospitalized because the kid jumped off of a playground and broke a bone or something like that. Honestly, I always thought that that was going to be the way we would end up in the ER or a hospital because he broke something. We originally ended up going to the pediatrician multiple times in December of 2020 because Benny wasn't sleeping through the night. And Benny is our like amazing, like we got amazing kids in general, but Benny is like easygoing. He's loving. He's very careful. He's gentle for the most part. I mean, he's a wild child, but when it comes to like just, you know, being aware of his surroundings, he's the better one of the kids. He never gave me or getting on a routine for sleep. He slept alone. He would take his bottle and knock out. So it was really weird to me when he started having issues sleeping through the night. There was a few changes. Like I had just had Jeremiah. Jeremiah is now 7 months. But at that moment, Jeremiah was 3 months old, turning 4 months. And Benny had started not sleeping through the night. He'd show up in my bed and tell me, "Mom, my belly hurts." And at that time, Sam had gone out to training out in Bryan, Texas for his job. So there was just a lot of changes. So I went into the pediatrician. I explained what was going on. The pediatrician told me it might be in an attention kind of phase where he's doing it to grasp attention. There's a new baby in the house. There's changes. It might be his way of expressing stress. And I accepted it because there was a lot of changes. So he told me, if it doesn't change, come back within 7 to 10 business days. Make sure you keep a strict routine, do everything the same so that he knows his bedtime. And if that doesn't function or work well for you guys, come back in, let me know if it doesn't work. So I go in. So that was December 4th that I showed up. December 17th, I went back in. And the thing about that office is that there's a nurse practitioner as well. I didn't see the same person, which now I look back and I'm like, I take the blame for that, which no one shouldn't. And I know I shouldn't, but I do. It kills me every time as a mom. He saw Benny and he just felt through his belly again. So this is the second time now that they're touching my son's stomach because we're complaining about abdomen pain, and he's not sleeping. And by this second visit, he's also not eating now. So keep in mind, it's December 17th. So this has probably been going on for exactly 2 weeks or a little bit more. And at this point, my son's not sleeping well and he's not eating. So of course I'm concerned. I'm a little more than concerned. Especially for a child that's never been an issue before. I tell the doctor says, okay, let's do a test for bacteria in his stomach. So he blows into this, just this little like paper bag. And then it'll come back a few days and they'll tell us whether it was negative or positive. And then on top of that, he sent us home with some Miralax due to possible constipation, which makes sense. There's a belly ache. But again, he was feeling through his stomach and he couldn't feel anything, right? So that was December 17th. We went home, we tried the Miralax. The Miralax didn't help. Benny now starts running fevers.
Yeah.
So December 23rd, I'm done. I am pissed off at the world because no one's listening to my son. My son's only getting worse. We're not able to do anything because even at family functions, our son is just laying on his side because he's in so much pain.
Right.
So December 23rd, before the holidays show up, me trying to be mindful, like, okay, it's gonna get super busy. We show up to Children's Hospital ER, because that's what I expect from a children's hospital, for them to find anything possible going on with my son. So I show up in there, and it's not like crazy late. It's like 7 p.m.
Pretty good. Yeah.
7 p.m. And we go in, and it's not that busy either. I don't remember seeing a line or a crazy wait. We show up, we see a doctor and a few other people walk in. So I believe like he was showing the students around. And they test him for 3 different things. They tested his blood, they tested his urine, and they tested him for COVID. Because apparently COVID is the only thing that's could possibly be wrong right at this moment. So he doesn't have COVID. He doesn't have leukemia. And he didn't have a UTI. So the doctor walks in and he tells us, the worst case scenario would be leukemia. He doesn't have that, so you don't have to worry about that. And I felt relief. I was like, okay, great. I'm glad my son doesn't have cancer, but what does he have? Why is he running a fever? Like, my understanding of a fever is there's some type of bacteria in his body. Something's wrong. Maybe there's internal bleeding. I even asked, I remember thinking, like, is there a tapeworm? Even Sam was like, babe, what, they have to find out what's going on. Tell him to check. And at that point we were arguing because I'm like, I've done everything I could possibly do. I've brought him in various times. Right. They don't find what's going on with Benny. I don't know what to tell you. So I go home that day frustrated because they sent us home. They said he probably is just being a stubborn child. And because he's not sleeping and not eating, he's malnourished. So he's probably caught a common cold and that's why he's running a fever. Yeah. So we got sent home. The holidays passed by and December 27th is a Sunday. I remember because I had to call in for work because at this point, our son is miserable. He's not sleeping. He's not eating. He's not sleeping. He's not eating. He's losing weight. He has fevers that I'm trying to combat because I had no idea what was going on with Tylenol and ibuprofen, and I'm alternating it, right? And even alternating it, sometimes the fevers were still breaking through that. So finally, I get frustrated and I call in. Sam knows about it. He's like, fine, go for it. I'm home. I'll stay with the kids. So I go to a different ER. I go to the Eastside Providence ER. And thankfully, I feel like because it was a female doctor that took care of us, she heard me out. I told her, I've had it up to here with everything. Like, I've gone multiple times to the pediatrician. I've gone to different ERs. No one can tell me what's going on with my son. His abdomen is still hurting. I need you to do something that they haven't done. Figure it out. So she's like, well, even she was kind of doubtful. She's like, I may not be able to find it, but let's go ahead and take an x-ray because it sounds like no one's done an x-ray. And from there, go on forward. So they took an x-ray, and being that he hasn't pooped in forever, because he hasn't eaten in forever, they see his intestines full of poop. And I will send those pictures. And yes, you can see it in the, like, they're backed up all the way to his ribs of poop. So she said, well, he's got chronic constipation. So I'm going to send you home with suppositories and you follow up with your pediatrician. Right. So I did. That was on Sunday. I followed up on Wednesday because I couldn't take more time off from work on a common cold. I'm trying to think like, okay, what's going on with my son? So Wednesday morning, the earliest I could get him in was 10 a.m. we see the doctor, and this time it's the same doctor that I saw the very first visit. And he heard me out, and I told him, look, this is what's going on. We've gone to multiple ERs. He said, well, what do you feel we should do for your son? Because it seems like you're not taking the answers that people are giving you. So obviously you feel something's going on. Explain to me what you would like to do. So I told him, well, if he's constipated, clean him out. If that's what's wrong with him, obviously he's been constipated too long. We need to clean him out. I don't care if it's not blocked or not. It needs to be cleaned out because he's miserable. So he said, okay, fine. Let's get you hospitalized. I'll call it in. Go ahead and go to the Providence Memorial in El Paso. And then from there, we'll give him Go-Lite, something to, Go Lightly or something like that. Something that like just literally clean him out. It's just this fluid that they put in down the tube and they cleans him out. Which apparently it's very common too. I didn't even think that was a common thing, but we finally show up. So that was around 10ish. I let my suegra know because she's taking care of my kids. He's at work. We're thinking we're going to be at the hospital 1 or 2 days, you know? So we get a few things. We show up at the hospital about 1, and it takes them forever. They put the tube in. By the time the tube is in, they're still waiting to get the ultrasound done because the doctor, thank God that the doctor did this, but the doctor did request to get an ultrasound done before doing the Go Lightly, because his thought process was, we want to make sure that there's no ruptured intestines before we flush him out, right? Thank God that he thought of that, because I wouldn't have been able to even know what to think of. So during the ultrasound, the tech that's doing this, mind you, I swear he took like 100 pictures. I'm not even exaggerating. I think it was like a good 100 pictures. And he kept going back towards the liver. And so I made small chat and I was like, hey, so how long have you been doing this? And he's been doing it for 11 years. So I'm like, oh, wow, you're an expert at your job then. That's great. And he kept going back to the liver. And so in my mind, I already knew, okay, he sees something that's not right. And then he leaves the room. He says, I'll be right back. I'm still going to take a few more pictures, but let him relax, let him, stretch out. By this time, Benny could not lay straight for the life of him. It hurt him too much. So he was always laying on his side, and he was just like holding himself in a ball because he was in just so much pain. So you could not get him to lay flat. So the technician had a lot of issues. So I was wondering, well, maybe he's going to get someone to hold him. So he comes back and a supervisor comes in. And while the supervisor's checking, the tech that was doing the pictures originally was standing behind her and pointing at specific areas. And my heart, I already knew something was up. I show up in the room and I tell Sam, I'm like, they saw something. They won't tell us what's going on. And Sam was like, you always exaggerate. He's fine, nothing's, and I'm like, I feel it. I feel something's wrong. Somebody who's done their job for 11 years doesn't just stop, bring in a supervisor and show them the same picture. Something's wrong. Yeah. And so I called my dad. My dad's like, no, mija, everything's gonna be fine. Llámame después. So I hung up. I didn't call anyone else. They walked in, and I think it was a nurse, if I'm correct. I don't remember because it's just a nightmare. She walks in and she said, so we found a mass. Sorry. Yeah. We found a mass next to your son's liver. It's about 10 centimeters large. So at this point, we want to figure out if it's benign or malignant. Yeah. So I obviously knew something was wrong, but I still had it in my heart that my son just had this tumor inside of him that wasn't trying to kill him. We were going to take it out and be fine. Right. From there on, that happened December 30th. December 31st, we were transferred to El Paso Children's Hospital. I expressed how unhappy I was with them because a few days ago, I was in the same hospital and they couldn't find the darn thing that they're supposed to find because that's specific freaking calling, finding what's wrong with our children.
Right.
Um,
You even wanted to leave.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was even like, can we go anywhere else? Like, is this really the only hospital that can take care of our child? And at that point, the hospital that transferred us over, their transport team was like, yes, because they have the specialists. They're the ones that are, they're gonna just test this tumor and make sure that it's not
Right.
malignant. So we're there. At this point, we feel hopeless because they're telling us that we're not gonna be able to get anything done until after the holidays.
Yeah. So Benny was just waiting.
Go ahead.
One thing that she left out, well, that she didn't know, I lost my mind once I found out he had a tumor. Like, I freaked out. I was crying. I was thinking the worst right away. And it was bad night for me. Like, I just couldn't stop crying. I was thinking my son's gonna die. Just the worst. Like, it was terrible for me that night. And I don't know, it still hurts me thinking about that night and all the time we wasted, with Ben not getting him the help he needed. But now we're at El Paso Children's and we're waiting because the holidays are up and nobody can come help Benjamin.
Right. So we got there on Thursday because, so I saw the doctor Wednesday. We got to El Paso Children's on Thursday. And then we had to wait all the way till Monday to get a biopsy done. So that's 4 days more because apparently they didn't have any on call. So that's another thing where I'm like, are you kidding me? Because cancer is not urgent enough. We need to wait for the holidays. Okay. So that was another thing where we were just aggravated because we had to wait an extra 4 days when we've already been going back and forth with that hospital.
Right.
When they finally did the biopsy, we had to wait another 7 days to get the results. And mind you, during this whole time, we're doing things that we've never done. So they started our child on morphine, which we're like, isn't that really strong? Like, how does that work out?
Right.
They left an NG tube in him because he wasn't eating. So we did end up.
No, remember? So they put the NG tube in, but he was getting so bloated
From the feedings
that it was hurting him.
Yeah. So I requested to get cleaned out.
So they were actually hurting him while they were trying to feed him because he was already in pain. But I guess, what were they feeding him?
They were just giving him formula through the NG tube. So it was still fluids, but it was too much.
Yeah, they were giving him too much.
I also have videos of that. You could see him. He was just like super swollen. He definitely got worse before he got better. Right. Definitely got worse before he got better. He got to a point where he was on a PCA. A PCA is where every 15 minutes, I'm lying to you, every 20 minutes, it gives him a certain amount of morphine because his pain is just so intolerable that we need to keep it regulated. And even then, between every 20 minutes, he could still get a push that would last 10 minutes. So every 10 minutes, if he needed something extra, he can get a push. Which we were allowed to get that after he got his biopsy because we didn't want to give him too much sedatives before the operation. During the operation on Monday, what he got was a biopsy. He got central line because they said that his fever wasn't due to bacteria, but because his fever was still coming through his body due to tumor fevers is what they called it. They couldn't put a port in because they were afraid that his body would attack it because they would think that was the bacteria. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how it was explained to us. That's how it made sense to me. So I was like, okay, mind you, we don't know any about this. We've never known anybody who had a kid with cancer. And if we did, it was like a friend of a friend of a friend. Like, it was very far. It didn't hurt like to the bone the way this situation did, or if it would have been like a close friend or family, we would have known more.
Right.
We still don't know a lot. But they even I remember walking in and they told us what the possibility of it was. So it was like a really decent one, and then neuroblastoma.
Right.
It was like Blitzker something, I don't know. But apparently one was okay, it's moderate. And so that's what we're hoping for. And then there's neuroblastoma. And they kept telling the only person that was honest with us there was
The surgeon.
Surgeon Walker.
Yes.
Was it Walker?
I have no idea.
I don't remember her name for the life of me at this point, but she was the only one that was honest. And she's the one that said it could be these two things. This one's really bad. This one isn't. And this is why this one's really bad. And
I asked you, right?
Yeah.
I said, you know what? Be straight up with me. Like how bad is it? Like, well, that was when that's when they
that
did
was during the biopsy.
During the biopsy.
But she's, even before then, she was the only one that told me what was currently like processing through the team, right? And then when we asked somebody about it, an oncologist, they played it off like, no, it's okay. Even if it's neuroblastoma, we have the right method, and it's not out of this world untreated. So I remember thinking like, okay, well, why are we getting two different things here? Because I really trust homegirl that's telling me the truth. She's telling me what is what. And at this point, the oncologists aren't even wanting to tell us what it could possibly be.
Right.
And then to even tell us, don't look it up, because all you're going to do is cause yourself heartache.
Right.
So I didn't look it up. I was trying to be, a patient mom, a healthy mom. So whatever the doctor who's gone to school for years and years and years, I'm respecting his authority. I'm respecting his place. I didn't look it up. I had no
Yeah, you didn't want to. Yeah.
I had no inclination of looking it up, because I was like, okay, I'm going to respect it. And he's probably right. I am going to give myself a heart attack looking this up. Had I looked up neuroblastoma before they told us that he had neuroblastoma, I would have a way better understanding and a way better foundation to stand on when they came out and told us the results.
Right.
So I feel like that needs to change too. They need to tell people, hey, look, it could be this or this. Let's talk about the possibilities. Let's get you to therapy, or let's get somebody to talk you through this, so that when you get the results, it doesn't slap you in the face.
Right. And their game plan was, we're just gonna try different stuff, see what works, see what doesn't work, and then we'll go from there. Right? We'll play it by ear. We'll play it by ear. We'll see trial and error, see what works, what doesn't. And I was like, at that point, I was like, what? Like, what's going on? Like,
right, like this doesn't sound good.
Yeah, like you have an oncology team and you guys are gonna play it by ear. Like, I don't want to hear that. Like, that's my son. Like, you guys better have a plan, because
right.
I mean, how am I gonna let you experiment on my son? No, you can't do that.
So, and then of course, so the other sad thing about that is that there's a different oncologist every 7 days.
Right.
So by the time we got the results of his biopsy, we were on oncologist number 3. Okay. I'm not going to say his name because I want Lord to bless us. So I'm just, at this particular person, I feel that should not be in this field. He should not be working with children's cancer. He shouldn't. He walks in, and this is Monday morning. So remember, 7 days later, we got the results of the biopsy. So what they do is that they put this needle in. The tumor has I guess they pull out bits and pieces of the tumor. And if it's a live part of the tumor, then they can test it, and they can grow cultures and things like that. And so they specifically want to see the genetics of this tumor, because that's what neuroblastoma is. It's almost different in every child. So they finally get the results 7 days later, and he walks in and then tells me the results of his MIBG scan as well. So on top of the fact that I just found out, so literally before this doctor walks in, we had been told that he was MIC amplified, which means that at this point, not only does it have neuroblastoma, but it's high risk stage 4 or stage M is what they call it. So that in itself, I'm already freaking out because I'm like, okay, no one has even told us the truth about what neuroblastoma is except for the surgeon.
Right.
And now you're telling me he has like a severe case of it. It's not like a moderate, hey, we can take care of it. So by that time, thankfully, Sam had reached out to you. You had seen our page, Joel. Right. You had seen that he had the same situation as Mia. And by that time, Sam had spoken to you, and I had just gotten off the phone with Sam, and Sam was like, this guy really, really urges for you to get out of there. He told me about his daughter. His daughter passed away. He told me all of it, right? And I was like, okay, well, that's great. But what if he just really doesn't like this hospital? I'm not going to put my hands in a stranger. And this was my honest to God like response at first. I'm like, okay, well, that's really sweet of him. Yeah. Thanks for reaching out. No, but let me do my research. And that was the first thing. Let me do my research. Let me look this up. So I did. I sent out the information that you, Joel, had given Sam and me, because at that time, then I had texted you and I had asked you a few more questions.
I did tell her, I said, look, you know what? This guy, when he talked to me, I felt his heart. Like I knew you were talking to me with truth.
Yes.
You know, like you can tell when somebody's bull crapping you and when somebody's not, or when somebody, especially in my field. I've worked with criminals my whole life. I know when they're lying to me. I know when I know how to read people. And I just heard it in your voice, and I heard your sadness, and I heard everything. And that's what pushed me to tell my wife, hey, you know what? This guy really wants us to get out. And I think it's the best thing. Right. Like I believe him.
Right.
You know?
So at that point I was like, okay, let's do our research. Let's not like be impulsive. And this is weird coming out of my mouth because I'm like the most impulsive person that you know, like if there's like 100 of us, I'm like right there at 98. I'm pretty impulsive. Like out of 100%, I'm at 98%. So something was like, okay, well, this is all new to us. Let's not just believe the first person. And like, how am I going to just take my son somewhere? Like at this point, we're hooked up on morphine. We're like, I'm not just going to get up and go and not have any idea what we're doing. So I had just gone off the phone with Sam. I sent some information out to a friend of mine to look into it because it was just all happening all at once. So then the doctor, the oncologist of that week had walked in and started breaking down the exams with me. And we were sitting like this. He was like a little bit further than Sam, and I was sitting right here. And he had his laptop in front of him, and he was showing me like the MIBG scans. And he tells me, because at that point we knew that something had been showing up, so we did extra scans. And now, so what we were checking were his knees, well, his left knee in particular. His left knee, his shoulder, and yeah, so his left knee, his right shoulder, and hit like the top part of his skull that had lit up in the MIBG scan. So we wanted to do a like better X-ray with contrast is what the difference was. So now we were getting the results of that. So before that, I wasn't too concerned. I was like, well, maybe it was just him moving, and then we found out that morning that it was MIC amplified. So I'm like, crap. It probably is cancer lesions. So then he walks in and he's telling me all these things. And then he's showing me his knees and he's like, oh, so Benny does have it in both knees. And I'm like, no, you mean his left knee? Because we were checking his left knee. No, both. Mind you, I am not a poker player, okay? I express my emotions through my face very well. I know this doctor saw that I was like, what the freak? How are you gonna tell me now both of his knees have hit? Like I was at least watery-eyed. My mouth was like shrunken in, and you could tell I was not taking this news well. I may not have fallen on my knees shouting, but and then he just kept going. And I don't remember what the homeboy said from the moment he said both knees have it. He moved on and started talking about all of this other information. And I was just like, hold on, I need to tap out. I remember having to tell him, like, give me one moment. If this is the case and this is severe, I do have information about another doctor out in Fort Worth that I would like to find out if we can get a transfer to, because at this point, I feel like there's better care elsewhere. And he was like, well, I have their number. That's all he said. And then he said, well, do you want to start chemo now? Or what? Well, I mean, what are you trying to do? So at that point, not only was I like in shock of all the information that this guy was trying to give me and not touching bases, like he was not like, do you need a few moments? Hey, I know this is a lot. No compassion, nothing. And he didn't do any of that. And on top of that, he was just like, so let's start chemo now that we know what's going on with him. And I was like, I just told you that I'm debating whether I should transfer him or not. Let's give it a few moments. Let's discuss that more. And so he's like, well, we know what it is now. We need to start chemo as soon as possible. I'm like, so now you're in a hurry. Now after two and a half freaking weeks, now you want to start chemo because I just told you that I want to transfer. So that's when I lost it. I was like, you know what? No, I need you to step out. Give me a few minutes. I'm going to talk to my husband and then I will let you know what we're going to do. And before that point, I may have been frustrated, but I didn't speak it. I wasn't loud about it. I would just say, hey, can we think about this really quick? Or, hey, can you explain this a little bit more? That point, I remember telling him, no, I need you to get out. I'm going to take my time and I'll let you know when I'm ready. And I felt a little bad, but at the same time, I'm like, you're not listening to me. You're not touching bases with me. You're not being, you need to get out of my room. And then I called Sam and I was crying. I was sobbing. I'm like, this guy's not listening to me. He's not compassionate. We need to get him out. You're right. Right. We need to get him out. It all happened within a day. Then he comes in. So I don't know what happened.
But, well, first of all, Joel gave us information.
Yeah.
So he was actually calling people while remember I called you and I told Joel, hey man, Karina's trying to get a hold of people at Cook, but nobody's answering. And he's like, you know what, let me call some people. I have some information. And he managed to get a hold of somebody that was waiting to call you, right? Remember that you called and he had already spoken to Tracy,
the coordinator.
Right.
She's the stem cell coordinator, but she's the one that reached out to me to get me out there.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
she had finally gotten out. The whole thing we were waiting on though was a amicable referral from this oncologist to Dr. Granger so that my insurance could cover it. So that was the whole point of me bringing it up to that doctor. And for him to just be like, yeah, I have their number, I felt was not appropriate for the situation. So I had called in the charge nurse at that point because I had connected with her. She was very sweet and she had cancer herself. Her husband had cancer. So she had told me it's okay to be upset. That is why, we have been doing this for many, many years. So she had told me this before this situation happened. So I had called her in and I said, look, I don't know if maybe I'm not reading into this correctly. Maybe I'm in my nerves. So after I pushed him out of my room, I was like, I need you to stand here with me and speak or be the referee between him and I, because I don't think we're connecting well at all. Like, I do not think that him and I speak well to each other. Maybe it's because I'm a female, I don't know. But she's in here. He comes in and he's like, I spoke to Dr. Granger. And I'm like, okay, thank you. Like, what do we do now? We're going to send in the paperwork, but it's up to you. So if your insurance covers it, they'll transfer you. But if your insurance doesn't cover it, then you have to transfer him yourself. Or you don't use your insurance and you can do an airlift, and then it could be like the most expensive thing in the world, but it's your choice. And then he said, but are you going to start chemo today or not? So I was like, let's hold it off for one day. let's see if everything happens overnight. If we don't have a response tomorrow about my insurance, then yes, let's start.
So that was a miracle itself, because I had talked to one of the nurses, the charge nurse actually, and she told me that she was like, hey, they sent out the paperwork, but it's going to take
A few
1
days.
to 5 days, 1 to 5 business days before they can even fly them out. So we're going to have to start chemo. She said, we're going to have to start chemo tomorrow, because it's going to take a couple of days and we can just get him started on chemo or whatever. But on my mind, I didn't want him to start it, because then he was going to be stuck there. And that's what I didn't want. I wanted him to get the heck out of there, you know? And so luckily, so we went to sleep. I went to sleep. She was at the hospital with Ben
That night, yeah.
that night. Next morning, she calls me and she's like, hey, I don't know what's going on yet, but, you know, hopefully we can get out of here. And I told her, I said, hey, they said it's going to take 1 to 5 business days before we can even leave. And they want to start chemo that day. Like that day they were going to start. Somebody walked in, she hung up, calls me back, and she's like, hey, we're leaving in 2 hours.
Yeah.
They're flying them out in 2 hours. And I was like, oh man, thank God. Because that brought so much joy to my heart. Like
Yeah.
I was.
And that was like at 10 in the morning.
Yeah.
It's still decently early in the morning. So
I packed up.
Sam packed up, brought me what I was gonna need, and we rented out a vehicle so that Sam could stay with Benny and they can do the airlift together. And I was gonna drive out to Fort Worth with my 2 of the kids and grandma, because, you know, we weren't sure how the hospital was gonna be, if we were gonna be able to be together or not. So we packed up a few things, enough to fit in a car. We went out to Fort Worth. Sam flew out there. They got there first. So go ahead and explain that experience.
So first of all, it was really, really nice of Cook Children's to come get us in a private jet.
Yeah.
For Benjamin. So he felt like a rock star, you know what I mean? And it was pretty cool because I'd never been in a private jet. So it was fun for me too.
Well, it showed urgency.
And it showed, yeah. And they made it right away. They made sure Benjamin got there fast. So we got there, this hospital showing up, just everything from where we landed was professional. Like everything was top of the line. Their ambulance was amazing. Everything, just their I guess what is it, where they land, their airport, their little dock, I guess.
Mhm.
That was amazing. Anyway, showing up, we get there, I see this huge castle of a hospital, and I told my wife, I'm like, wow, this hospital is like crazy amazing. Like it looks like I'm in Disneyland right now.
Yeah.
We're going through the hallways. There we get to the 5th floor. Benjamin's room's ready, his bed's ready, like everything is ready for him. As soon as we get there, we get nurses coming in, we got Dr. Granger coming in, Angie coming in, and they already know what's going on with Benjamin. So I really don't have to explain anything, because they've already gotten all the they got his charts, they got everything on him. And I told him, she asked me how my experience was at El Paso Children's. I let her know, and she says, you know what, I can't speak ill of them.
Politically speaking, yeah.
Yeah,
To be unpolitical.
Yeah, I can't be unpolitical, but I'm glad you're here. She
Yeah.
said he is in a better place here.
Yeah.
You know, and
I'm gonna take care of him as if he were my own.
yes, that's exactly what she said. And just from there on, everything was very professional. She made sure, and even till now, she makes sure that she talks to my wife every single day. But that first interaction with her was amazing, because she actually had information for me. She spoke the truth. She wasn't trying to omit anything. She was letting me know what's going on, and this is what we're gonna do, and this is what's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
And
there was a game plan
from
the very beginning.
Yeah, from what she had from El Paso Children's,
Mm-hmm.
which she really didn't trust, because she told me, I'm gonna do everything all over again that they did, because I don't want to go based off of this.
Yeah.
I feel they sometimes leave stuff out, and I do not want to go with it.
Well, the way she explained it was, we have a better method and a better machine and a better scan. So not so much that they don't put everything in or they don't do everything right. It's just that, well, we have better stuff here because this is what we
Right.
work on. This is our specialty. So I don't think she meant to like she didn't speak ill of them whatsoever. She's just explaining. So there's a pediatrician and then there's a doctor. You don't go to the adult doctor to take care of your baby. You go to be a pediatrician, right? There's a specialty for a reason. This is her specialty. So we went to the right place. And she even told us that yes, they started off, and I remember showing up however many hours later, because obviously I was driving in. I showed up 6 hours later, maybe after you showed up. Right. So it was at night. And they told us you're allowed to be together because it's an end of life situation. It's a diagnosis. Your child has cancer. So that hospital allowed us to be together
for the first 48 hours. Yes.
Because of COVID. But even so, okay, even with the strict lines of COVID, they allowed us to be together due to the fact that he just got a diagnosis that
could possibly.
I mean, no parent should have to go through this alone. No parent. So they allowed us to be together. El Paso Children's did not, which just drove me berserk because we actually had family there. We could have been together, handling the situation together, and we still couldn't, even when we were in El Paso. So now we're here, we're spending the few hours together, helping each other out, helping Benny. They started Benny on chemo literally that same night.
Yeah, they didn't waste any time.
No, they did not waste time.
They did the port that same day.
Oh,
yeah, they did the port.
No, so it was the next day then.
Okay, yeah.
So we lied to y'all. So it was literally, we got there the first night. She told us everything. She said, I'm going to start tomorrow. Is that okay with you? So again, she's running things by us. She's telling us her game plan, but then she's asking us, because he's our kid. He's our kid. So we have a say in what happens. So this is how professional they are, and this is how much they know what they're doing. I am a tactile person. Mind you, I can't touch his tumor. I can't touch his cancer. I don't know what's like, how you touch that situation. But when I walked in, maybe when you walked in, they gave it to you too as well. But when I walked in, she gave me a pamphlet of all the reports that El Paso Children had done on him, of all the exam results. And then on top of that, the game plan to kill neuroblastoma, to cure him of neuroblastoma, from the induction phase all the way to the last phase, which we're still not in, so that's why I don't know the name of it. But from day one to the very last day, she said it's going to be a 15-month process. Buckle down. It is not easy, but we're going to do this together. We're going to do this as family. And then from there, I mean, Sam and I, we did they moved the PICC line, they put in the port right away, which was another thing where I'm like,
she said they could have done sooner.
He was still running fevers, and she's like, that the fevers aren't due to bacteria. We'll get him on antibiotics. He's gonna be fine. We're gonna put in the port. So I'm like, right, we could have done that before. So one less surgery for him, but okay. They didn't redo a biopsy, just because they didn't want to have to delay things. So they just put in the port, and then we would do another biopsy scan and all of the above after the fourth cycle of chemo. We did do an MIBG scan
because she wanted
a better one.
Yes, she wanted a better one.
I want to say after the first chemo session, they did another MIBG scan, and thankfully, because it was done after the first chemo session, we weren't unsure. We weren't sure if it was going to look worse or better, just because it's a better machine. So it may have shown more information than the first MIBG scan. So it wasn't so much that his exam had gotten worse. It's just that it was showing more information. but we had actually gotten results that his number had came down. So we were bracing ourselves for a higher number, thinking more was going to show up because it's a better machine. It didn't. So we already from there were like, okay, it must be working. The chemo must be working, because he went from being a 6 to a 3 within a week of being in Dr. Granger's care.
A lot of the stuff that showed up in El Paso's MIBG was not there anymore.
Right. Or things that I got, so because they gave me all this paperwork, so not, they didn't just walk in and give me information and then walk out. Like, she walked in, she said, these were the results, here it is for you.
Right.
Like, very transparent. They're not hiding anything. They're not trying to be like shady about anything. She handed me the paperwork. She said, feel free to read through it, write down your questions. I will be back in tomorrow morning, unless you have a question for me right now. And I'm like, well, no, I guess I don't. Like, you gave me all this paperwork, let me read through it. I read through everything, and some of these reports, I'm like, they never freaking told me any of this. Like, they omitted that his skull had been showing from the very beginning. They knew about it. They knew that it was lighting up, which they didn't tell us about, which freaks me the hell out, because I'm like, if you could have told us. So we didn't know until Dr. Granger walked in one day and was just telling me, during the MIBG scan, the time that we did it with her. So after his first round, she said, we did look into this specific area. And then, like, why? They didn't tell me anything about that. She said, yeah, so it's so tiny, it's minuscule, so they don't consider it to be neuroblastoma. So maybe that's why they didn't bring it up. But she said, we'll keep an eye on it. And then they looked into it, and then they came back and they told us that it's there, but it's very low grade. And it doesn't look like it's neuroblastoma. She said, which is really different, because usually when you have neuroblastoma and something else lights up, it's because neuroblastoma has spread and it's there. She said, but we're going to keep looking into it. And so that's something that we've been having to look into as of today, to just little things that we're like, thank God we're with Dr. Granger, because we would have never found out about this thing in his skull, because they didn't tell us. They didn't tell us, even though it's in the report. It's in the reports. That's where I'm like, nobody decided this was important enough to tell the parents, right? So now that we're at Fort Worth, Sam and I spent those 2 days together. Thankfully, because we had grandma and my kids stayed with grandma. I stayed there with Benny with whatever we brought. Yeah. And as of that day, I have been staying with Benny. I haven't gone back to El Paso.
You stopped working. You had to stop working.
Yeah, I had to stop working. I didn't qualify for FMLA because I just had a baby, so I don't have enough hours because I was off for 4 months. So just a lot of things were just inconvenient. Like, I didn't qualify for FMLA, so we had to go a different route. It's still unpaid. I'm on a leave of absence. Thankfully, my supervisor worked with me. She got HR to work with me a little bit. It's something that has to be like approved. So they went out of their way to get that done. Benny's not in school, so we didn't have to worry about that. Sam let go of our apartment so that we can reduce
cost
in a way, because we're over here. So we're living separated. So it's pretty much like 2 separate households with expenses, but now we're doing to 1 income.
Right.
Yeah. So thankfully we do have a GoFundMe, and there has been progress in there. I have budgeted us that if there's not another cent put in there, we will get there. We will get through till August, which still leaves us with about 7 to 8 months of, okay, what do we do now?
Right.
But
it has been hard on us.
Yeah.
Because Kori doesn't get to see the kids every day. They miss her. I get to come out here maybe once a month for 5 days. If we're lucky enough, if we have the funds for it, we'll do a whole 5 days. If not, it's only 3 days. and that's it.
Yes, because we have a budget. We're trying to stick to that budget so that we don't like spread through that.
Yeah, so we don't go through the money right away. Yeah, but as far as personally, it's helped me miss her more, you can say. No, honestly, because I mean, this could have either made us or broken us. But I think it's helped us. Well, it helped me. You know, it helped me appreciate her more, because there's a lot of things that I have to do now when I had her at home that she did, and now I'm like, wow, how did she ever do this? How did she ever manage to do all this? And I appreciate her more. I feel like I have grown more in love with her, just because I see the struggle. I see that she's there. She goes through surgeries with Benjamin. She goes through every single difficult time alone. And you know, she's got a great heart. She's super strong. And honestly, I don't think I could take that. You know what I mean? I mean, I think God put her there because he knows she's strong. And I mean, I can't even watch my kids get vaccinated because it hurts me to watch them in pain. Yeah. So I know she's the right one to be with Benjamin. And even though it's hard, I always tell her that she just needs to hang in there. We need to hang in there. We need to stick it out, because this year and a half that we have to spend separated is going to be worth it, because we still have a lifetime with Benjamin. We have a lifetime together. So whatever we can do right now is good for us. Also, we're also trying to help spread awareness. We're trying to help families as we can. I know we really want to change the way hospitals work, especially El Paso Children's, because if they know there's a specialized neuroblastoma team in Fort Worth, they should offer that right away as soon as they think it's neuroblastoma. Right. That should have been their first thought. Hey, you know what?
Same way Memorial transferred us to El Paso Children's, because they didn't have the right team to handle that tumor. It should have been taken care of that way.
Yes, I feel that they should have, and I feel like that's what they should do, is automatically, if they think it's neuroblastoma, send them off. Set your pride aside, forget about your money.
Right.
You're trying to save kids, then let's do it. You know, let's save kids. Send them where they have to be right away.
And not just the hospital themselves. I really think that the way we do checkups for our children needs to change. This is something that we could have caught on. So apparently Benny's neuroblastoma is something that he could have been born with. From the womb, it could have happened. So that means that had we ever done an ultrasound, an X-ray, looking specifically for these things, we would have seen it before it got to the size that it did, where it was causing pain. So the way it is that since it may have been within his whole life, he may have not known that he was in pain, because he just grew up with it. So he never complained about it until it just, so when we got to the hospital and they finally told us what it was already pressing up on his intestines, pressing up on his liver, on his kidney. So it was just ruining functions of normal things that his body needs to work. And that's why he was complaining about pain. So not because it wasn't painful before, but because it was just like all this stuff. Yeah. All this, it wasn't just one thing, it was all these important intestines. Even his, like, I know that they explained to me that 2 specific veins that go through arteries that go through the middle of his body were like split apart because his tumor went through it, which is another thing. I'll send that to you as well. I was in awe, like, how the heck did this little boy go through all? We literally did not find this until, I mean, and there's other cases now that we are cancer parents. We've spoken to other cancer kids, and I know of a girl that has a tumor that's wrapped around her heart. Like, we could have seen this with an ultrasound. When you check my son for his 6 months, year, and you're mean enough to vaccinate him, put him through a freaking ultrasound. If we know that this is something that can be done and is most common in 5-year-olds and younger, why are we not doing it? For just deterrence of waiting this long, or deterrence for not sacrificing another child.
Right.
So these are things that I don't know what I have to do. I don't know who I have to talk to. I don't know what book I need to write, but it will change. It will change because there's things that we could be doing
to save kids. We need to save
kids.
Yeah.
That are not being done. Not just the funding, just basic freaking steps.
Proper checks. Yes.
Proper checks.
Yes.
If there's an ultrasound in every pregnant woman's doctor's office visit, then there should be one in every pediatrician's office as well, especially for checkups. The same way you can check up a pregnant woman, I don't see what the radiation issue is. If you can check a pregnant woman, you can check a child.
Right.
And we're just checking for basic stuff that you can't see or feel because they felt him a gazillion times and never felt the tumor because it was in between things. So if you can't see it and you can't feel it, let's look for it in a different way.
Right.
And let's make sure he doesn't have it.
Right.
And do not test a child for leukemia and say that the worst case scenario is not there.
Right.
I honestly,
right. I think
if this doctor ever sees this, I hope you know that if I see you in the street somewhere, I may just run you over. I may just run you over because I literally went home that day thinking my child was fine.
Right, right. But yeah, that's a little bit of our story. Benjamin just got done with his 3rd chemo session of his first phase. Yes. That one knocked him down pretty good. First 2, he did pretty well, but this one hit him pretty hard. He's back up to normal, but he will start his 4th on Thursday. He will be admitted again, and he will start, and then we will get another CT scan to see where he's at, see if the tumor has grown, if it's shrunk, if it's working, if there's anything else in there.
It's not just a CT scan. We will do a biopsy as well.
Okay.
So that biopsy, what we're looking for is NED, so no existence of disease. Or
Evidence.
No
there
evidence.
You go.
Yes.
I'm like, it's pretty late. So no evidence of disease. And if we get that, I mean, that's what we want, right? So even if we get that, we still have to move forward with this 15 months because just because it doesn't show up in a scan or in a biopsy or the part that they pulled out of him doesn't mean that there isn't a cell somewhere in his body. And the last thing we want is for it to get a moment to grow and it get worse than where we started. So obviously we want NED to come up at this next scan. Even if it doesn't, we do the 5th round of chemo. We figure out whether we're gonna do surgery or not to remove the tumor. If we keep the tumor in there, it's just because it would cause more
damage to take it out.
So there are kids that have left their tumors inside of them. They just verified it's dead. And they do that by like sticking a needle and pulling at different parts of the tumor to make sure that it's all dead tumor, not any live parts. So 5th session surgery, maybe not surgery. And then we move into the stem cell transplant, which what I've seen for other kids, it is very difficult. They're pretty much giving them harsh. Okay, so chemo in itself is harsh because we see what it does to adults, imagine to a child. But even in that case, the 2nd phase is so tough to the point where they're wiping it out to a point where it's not like, oh, we're going down to 0. You're wiping this thing down, this person, this cancer, this cell down to a point where they can't get back up naturally for weeks, sometimes months. Their immune system cannot replenish or grow these cells fast enough. It takes them naturally months to get back to normal. So thankfully, they have already taken stem cells out of Benny, and they will put him back into Benny to help him recuperate within 2 to 3 weeks versus 2 to 3 months. And the reason why we want this to be faster is because, one, again, we don't want this cell or cancer or anything to grow again within the time that we're not giving him that chemo, which is where we have failed in the past, is giving it too much time. We can't go past the 3 weeks of every cycle that they're doing.
Right.
I know it sounds harsh, but if it's a harsh cancer, we have to have harsh measures to fight it. I mean, you're not going to put a weak opponent against somebody who wins every time. Like, so it just sounds harsh. So we wipe him out. We put it back. We put good cells in him.
Get him back up.
He reproduces those good cells, and within 2 to 3 weeks, he should be back up. Again, he's going to get ulcers. We're expecting diarrhea, vomit, fevers, lack of appetite. So he may need an NG tube. Again, that's only one. We do that a second time. Again, we wipe him out again, because we're trying to make sure that his body doesn't keep reproducing the cell that his body naturally thinks it's part of him, that it's normal. That's how childhood cancer is made. Their bodies reproduce a bad cell because they're just reproducing everything so fast. And we're trying to pretty much retrain his body in those 2 transplants. So the first one is just to make sure it gets done. And then that second transplant is we're avoiding relapse. We're trying to make sure that these kids don't get this again, because it's already a very aggressive cancer.
Right.
And then after that, we go into the third phase. And the third phase is chemotherapy and radiation as well. So my 3-year-old will be probably the strongest person that I have and will ever meet.
Right.
Because he's already done way more than I have. And I mean, I've given birth to 3 kids, and man, it wasn't fun, but he's done a lot more than most adults
Right.
could even handle. So this is why
we're here. We're in the fight. We're here to fight. We're here to give kids a chance, and we're here with the Gold Corner.
yes.
We're gonna succeed, man. We're gonna take it to another level. We gotta get these kids. We gotta save these kids. We gotta be their voice. And that's why I'm here. That's why she's here. That's why Joel's here. I know he's got a passion, and we got Mia helping us out from heaven. She's got our back. And and I know it's tough on Joel, but we love you, man. Thank you so much for having our back. You truly saved Benjamin. You saved him, and we're really grateful to you. I am, as a father, and I know she is.
And I apologize for doubting you at first, but now that I know you, I am so glad.
No, but yeah, you saved. You've given our kid a better chance of living. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And
through you, God made his way. Yes. Through you. So thank you for listening to God and for just following your heart.
And if you guys want to follow Benny's journey from the beginning, you can check him out at Fight for Benny. That is his Instagram. What is the GoFundMe?
The GoFundMe also, it's the GoFundMe / Fight for Benny. So it's still going to be under Fight for Benny. And he also has a Facebook that isn't managed by me. It's managed by our family friend. She posts on there as well about him and all his updates. And that one is also Fight for Benny. If you can't find it under Fight for Benny, it's under Priscilla Odekin. She has it attached to her page, so you'll be able to find it from her page. There's also other different kinds of ways, y'all.
Yeah,
we're not. You can GoFundMe.
Right.
He also has a wish list. He has a YouTube channel as well that we're going to try and because we had a channel family wise, but we're just doing little things for him so that when he looks back at this, because
we have faith that he will overcome.
He can see, like, oh, this is how much I changed, or this is what happened. We want something tangible for him and a little different, because the beads right now don't work for him. Like it's not a thing that he wants to do.
Right.
So he does have a YouTube channel that you guys could follow. Different. It's not like daily updates. It's every once in a while.
It's not officially a YouTube channel. It's like we'll post something and then try to do it a couple of months later. But
yeah.
But yeah, if you guys, we take prayers more than anything. You know what I mean? We're not asking for money. We're not, we're not trying to put that off. We're not.
We know
that's not our main goal is to get money. You know what I mean? Our main goal is to get Benny healthy. And if you can give prayers, give prayers. If you can help us out financially, help us out. But that's not what we're worried about. Prayers are way stronger, so
anything.
So we're here for that. And we just want to thank you, Joel, for having us on, and the Gold Corner for having us.
Well, it's truly my pleasure, Sam and Kori. We've spoken on various occasions, since Benny going there. And Kori, I forgive you. I forgive you for doubting me. No, but seriously, no, I mean, when it comes to your child, of course, you want the best for them. And, this is a stranger that's coming and letting you know, hey, this is my experience, but I made it very clear to both of you. I said, do your research, please. I go, this is just what I've gone through. And there are so many things I wish I could say right now, but luckily you guys know those things, and legally I cannot speak of them publicly yet, but I will one day. Um, but yes, I mean, it's unfortunate when it comes to situations like these, that some hospitals, some doctors prefer to see patients as money in the pockets or money for the hospital rather than as if it was their own child. And I let you guys know from the beginning. I said, when we went, and Dr. Granger, to me, and Angie and Marissa and all that neuroblastoma team, they are just wonderful, and they do not treat the children as just a number or just a patient. You can see that they treat them like family. And that's one thing that I told you. I said, once you meet Angie and Dr. Granger, oh my God, you're going to see the difference. And to me, Cook Children's in Fort Worth, my heart is there. My heart stayed in the fifth floor because that is the last time her heart gave her last beat. And that is where my heart is. So don't be surprised if Benny says that she sees her running around the Ronald McDonald House or around Cook, because I know she's there, watching over other children, especially Benny. And we were not oncology parents until we were told that our children had cancer. But now that you guys have walked those halls, you guys know, just how important and why it is a passion of ours to be able to spread this, to be able to spread awareness. And you know I have a lot of people that have perfectly healthy children that say thank you, for creating this channel, because we were not aware. Unfortunately, the television and the government society only shows us what that big name hospital is of these kids running around bald headed,
Right.
but they don't see what our children have to go through. And that is why I wanted to create this channel, is so people can see and be aware of what this monster is and what it's doing to our children. And it's just one of these things that I'm extremely passionate about. And Sam and Kori, thank you honestly so much from the bottom of my heart, of joining me in this journey, and for being a part of the Gold Corner, as part of my board of directors. And because as Kori was saying, we are going to make a difference. We will make a difference. We have to be a voice for these children. We have to speak for them. We have to defend them. And no one's going to know our children more than we know our children.
Right.
And as much as about 80 or 90% of your story did bring up a lot of memories and even anger, I'm extremely happy that you guys are where you need to be, because the chances of Benny beating this just tripled, quadrupled, rather than him having stayed where he initially started. So
Right.
I'm thankful. And I did not, I mean, it took me a long time to even help people to even speak about this, but I know that this is one thing that I promised Mia, and one thing that I promised God is that I was going to continue to help children and continue to help families. And, God just crossed our paths, and I was just being obedient to God. I was just being obedient and doing this. And, when I see, the pictures of you guys, spending time together, and, all the children there, family, you guys, right now, you're seeing this right now. By the time this airs, Sam is going to be in El Paso, and Kori is going to be by herself with Benny, starting the fourth round of chemo. And for all the neuroblastoma parents, know that third and fourth rounds of chemo are the toughest ones in the
Yeah.
roadmap. So, I mean, I know Sam was very vocal about this, but it does take a lot out of you, and financially, it does take a lot out of you. And Sam is over here with the kids, and Corey's over there. So, I mean, if God puts it in your heart to donate, and I'm going to be putting all the links when I upload anything when it has to do with the Acosta family and with Warrior Benny, please do so. Prayers, of course, that is going to be ultimate as well, because prayers do help out a lot.
Yes.
Corey, Sam, what and I'm, this is obviously strengthening you guys, and it's making you guys, and I know by faith that Benny's going to be a walking testimony, and you guys will be able to help out hundreds and thousands of families that are going through the same thing that you are. Um, from both of you, I want to hear if you guys can give us some advice for those that have seen our stories on here on the Gold Corner. What advice would you give other parents that are going through the same thing? Number one, and number two, what advice would you give other parents with perfectly healthy children? What can you tell us?
Um,
Honestly, for well, us as parents, I just advise that if you do see something that is not normal in your kids, take action right away, because we didn't take the right action, and that's something that I think hurts us,
yes.
because we are the parents and we're supposed to protect them. So take action right away. Ask for anything you feel is needed, even if it comes out of your pocket. It's either you lose a couple hundred,
Yeah.
or you lose your kid. You know what I mean? Just go above and beyond for your kids. Always get second opinions. Um, and also, you can contact us,
Yes.
contact Joel. If you have any doubts in your mind, if you think, even if it's just a little bump, if you think it's a headache, a stomach ache, I mean, we'd be more than happy to help parents out. And then, what do you have as advice for healthy kids?
I think Joel meant more like, like advice, like how do we get through it? And
How do we get through it?
yes. So I feel like, for me, I'm speaking for myself here.
Right.
The more I drew closer to God, the more my marriage benefited from it. And I think that just for anybody who's been in church or known Christianity, it makes sense, because they speak of it all the time. If God's in the center of your marriage, then your marriage is going to run correctly. It's just a trifold rope. It's stronger. I'm not saying that there aren't bad days. There are bad days. And those are the days that we don't communicate correctly, or we misunderstand each other, or we're just so busy, stuck with life happening that, and we're not there at the end of the night to
Hug each other.
Or lash out at each other, or whatever you would do if your spouse was there. And that's what makes them your best friend. Like, your best friend knows your good and bad days, and that's who your spouse is. Your spouse is the one that knows, okay, you're not having a good day, I'm gonna mind myself.
Yeah.
Whatever. Not poke and prod at it and say, well, hey, you could be doing better, or why are you not doing this? Sam knows me. He knows, okay, you're having a rough day. Do you want some coffee? Do you need some time? I can go outside with the kids. And we just don't have that available to us at the moment. So I feel like the only way to get through that situation is with God's help, obviously, and also just better communication. We have to work a little harder to tell each other every little piece because we're not with each other at the end of the day. So when something happens at work, he tells me, okay, look.
So just communicate.
Yeah, communicate.
And then for healthy children, parents.
For healthy children, I mean, there's parents right now that are separated and their kids don't have cancer. And it's military spouses, and there's nurses right now that are in contract for the COVID locations. And so those parents are separated and their kids are fine. So thankfully you don't have the stress of your child going through this. So just one, always be grateful for what you have. I think that just sets the mood for your day. And be grateful that you have these great things called cell phones that we can communicate with our spouses every single day if you have the chance to. I know that there's overseas there that isn't an option.
Yeah.
But I honestly think whether your kid is sick or not, I think that God first and communication on your end are honestly like key points. And then when we are together, I think we do everything that we want to do as a family instead of doing it alone. So like there's certain things that I've been wanting to eat that I don't eat when I'm not with him. I reserve those funds for when my family is together so we can do outings like go to the playgrounds or go to go-karts or things like that, just so that we can enjoy life together versus, oh, I wanted to do this.
So yeah. So those are that's our advice. I know we got off track a little bit, but
I mean,
Well, any last words you want to leave us with before we finish this story? Anything on your mind?
no, I said everything. I just really wanted to thank you and just thank you for having us on, letting us share our story. Maybe one day we'll get back on here and have a success story.
yeah.
And share that with everybody. And that's what we're hoping for. That's what we're praying for. And I just really thank you, Joel, for helping us out and being with us through this journey.
I agree.
Well, the pleasure's mine, Sam, Kori. Really, thank you guys, and just thank you for being there for me too, because you guys have seen me when I'm really bad, and you guys have reached out to me. So thank you so much for that. This is who we are, family. For those that are watching out there, this is how raw it is. This is how real it is. This is childhood cancer, unfortunately. I am going to be leaving all the links in the description of Benny of how you can follow his story, follow his journey. Also, the GoFundMe. If you guys want to reach out to Sam or Corey, they will be more than happy to lend an ear and speak to you guys. Whether you want to ask any questions, whether you want to say prayers, whether you want to bless them financially or just pray over them, anything that you want to do, I know they would be more than happy. They have now this passion that I have, that a lot of all these parents and everybody that's involved in the Gold Corner has. And as they were mentioning, we are going to make a difference because our children deserve it. Our children deserve more than 4% of what the government gives us for childhood cancer research or funding for that. So family, thank you so much for tuning in this week and listening to the story of Warrior Benny, my executive director here for the Gold Corner, Sam, his beautiful wife, Kori. And just wanted to say thank you once again for taking time out of your busy Sunday to be able to listen to these stories of these amazing warriors. This is who we are. We are the Gold Corner. We're a broken family, but we're broken together. Remember
Right.
to live each day to its fullest because tomorrow is not promised. And just hold on a little while longer because we're almost home. God bless you, and we'll see you next week.